What could you as a modern human actually offer people 10,000 years ago, and what technologies could you truly recreate? Because the harsh truth is this: most modern technology is a finished product. It depends on factories, supply chains, and invisible layers. But there's one kind of technology you can bring back with you, the kind that starts with dirt, heat, and patience. Today's step is pottery. A simple clay container doesn't look impressive, but it quietly unlocks everything: boiling water, storing food, mixing materials, and controlling heat. Pottery is the moment a camp becomes a workshop. It's also the moment you stop reacting to nature and start shaping it. Clay is special because it behaves like a shapeable rock. When it's wet, it's plastic. You can bend it, pinch it, coil it. When it dries, it holds a form. And when it's fired, it becomes something new, a ceramic, a material that keeps its shape under heat and water. But clay is also unforgiving. If it dries too fast, it cracks. If it's too wet, it slumps. If it has the wrong mixture, it explodes in the fire. Pottery is a lesson in process. It teaches the first rule of civilization: don't just make a thing that survives the real world. Try to build a civilization without containers, and you will feel the ceiling instantly. You can't store water, you can't transport liquids, you can't reliably cook grains. You can't simmer, reduce, sterilize, or preserve. A container turns fire into a cooking tool, not just a threat. It turns water into something you can manage. It turns food into something you can keep. And it turns materials into experiments. Mix this, heat that, cool it, observe what changes. A pot is the first quiet laboratory in human history. Field note: how do you know you found workable clay? Look for sticky, fine sediment near water, where particles settle. Good clay feels smooth and cohesive when wet. It doesn't crumble like sand. A simple test is patience. Mix the soil with water, let it settle, and watch layers form. Heavier sand drops first. Finer clay stays suspended longer, then settles as a smooth layer. In the field, you don't need perfection, you need consistency. Remove pebbles. Knead it thoroughly. Kneading isn't just mixing. It pushes out trapped air and aligns the material, making it stronger. Let's keep it simple. Two ancient methods dominate early pottery: pinch and coil. A pinch pot starts as a ball. You press your thumb in, then slowly widen and thin the walls. Coil building starts with snakes of clay, stacked in a spiral and blended together. The key isn't speed. The key is even thickness. Uneven walls dry unevenly. Uneven walls crack, and smoothing isn't cosmetic. It compresses the clay, closes tiny gaps, and strengthens the structure. In other words, pottery teaches you structural thinking. Shape is only half the job. The material must be prepared to survive heat. Most failures happen before the fire even starts. They happen during drying. If you dry a pot too fast, the outside shrinks while the inside is still wet. The tension becomes cracked. So field note: dry slowly. Shade is your friend. Airflow is your friend. Direct sun is impatient and cruel. Pottery has stages. At first it's soft, then it becomes leather hard, firm enough to handle, and only when it's truly dry, bone dry, is it ready to face fire. This step feels boring, but civilization is built on boring steps done correctly. Firing is the transformation. Heat drives out water, then changes the clay structure permanently. Early humans fired pots in open fires and pitfires long before true kilns existed. The principle is simple: gradual heat, steady time, and controlled airflow. Too fast and trapped moisture can crack or break the vessel. A kiln is simply the next evolution, a structure that holds heat, directs airflow, and makes results repeatable. And repeatability is the heartbeat of technology. Once you can fire pottery reliably, You've built the first heat-proof infrastructure. Now you can cook better, store safer, and prepare for higher temperature crafts. Pottery doesn't just help you cook. It changes what food is possible. Boiling makes tough plants edible. It makes grains practical. Storage reduces waste and stabilizes survival across seasons. That stability is what allows agriculture to become more than a gamble, and pottery invites chemistry. Once you can heat and mix materials in a vessel, you start discovering reactions: ash and water, lime and clay, pigments and binders. The pot is a humble object, but it opens a door to controlled transformation. And controlled transformation is the definition of technology. Before we close, your field notes: the practical checklist. 1. Find clay near water and remove pebbles. Knead thoroughly to improve strength and consistency. 2. Choose a simple build method. Pinch for small pots, coil for larger shapes. Keep wall thickness even. 3. Smooth and compress the surface. It's not decoration, it's strength. 4. Dry slowly in shade with airflow. Let it reach bone dry before firing. 5. Fire gradually. Think steady heat and patience, not speed. And here's the real payoff: once you have a fired container, your options multiply. It works. And now the next dependency: to reach higher temperatures in reliable kilns. Now let's make these field notes even more usable by adding what every early potter learns the hard way: troubleshooting. If your pot cracks while drying, it usually means the surface dried faster than the inside. The fix is almost always slower drying. Shade, gentle airflow, and patience. You can even cover the pot lightly so it dries evenly, not aggressively. Rotate it. Turn it. If a pot cracks during firing, the most common cause is hidden moisture. Clay can feel dry on the outside while still holding water inside. That's why bone dry matters. A good habit is to pre-warm the pot near gentle heat before it ever touches serious fire. Think of it as teaching the clay to accept temperature one step at a time. If a pot breaks suddenly or pops, that's trapped water turning to steam too fast. Steam expands violently. The fix is again gradual heat and dryness. Pottery punishes impatience. And here's a powerful upgrade you can do with almost nothing temper. Early potters learned to mix clay with tiny non-clay particles to reduce cracking and shrinkage. Fine sand, crushed old pottery, ash, or certain plant fibers can help, depending on what's available. You're basically giving the clay a skeleton. This is one of those quiet lessons that sounds small, but it changes success rates dramatically. Now let's talk about thickness, because it's the silent enemy. Uneven thickness means uneven drying, uneven firing, uneven stress. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be consistent. When you build with coils, blend the coils fully. When you pinch, keep moving around the rim so you don't accidentally create weak, thin spots. And once the pot is fired, the story doesn't end. It begins. A fired container unlocks safe heat. You can boil water to reduce risk. You can cook grains and tough plants that are otherwise hard to digest. You can make stews that extract more nutrition. You can store liquids and protect food from some pests. In a world without modern medicine, a boiling pot is not comfort. It's survival infrastructure. If you want a simple first project that teaches the entire chain, here it is: make a small cup, not a giant jar. A small cup. Small objects dry more evenly, fire more evenly, and teach you faster. Master small, then scale up. And one more kiln concept, just enough to point your mind in the right direction. A kiln is not magic, it's controlled airflow and stored heat. The more you can shield your fire from wind, concentrate heat around the pottery, and maintain temperature steadily, the more repeatable your results become. Repeatability is the difference between "I got lucky once" and "I can do this whenever I need to." So think like an engineer, even in the Stone Age. Reduce variables, change one thing at a time, observe results, keep what works, discard what doesn't. That mindset is the real technology you bring to the past. And if you're wondering where this is all heading, here's the next dependency. In plain language, pottery gives you heat-proof containers. A kiln gives you controlled heat. But to push into the temperatures needed for true high-temperature craft, you need better fuel. That's why the next step is charcoal, not because it's exciting, but because it's an upgrade to temperature, and temperature is the engine of progress.